Here we go. All right, so this is a weird thing that I'm doing. We have Twitch chat here. I'm on Twitch right now doing a genocide run. But they want to hear D&D hot takes before the video comes out. So I figured, why not do the video now? And I will read all of the Twitter hot takes while murdering things in Undertale. So Varmint says this is their hot take: the odd hatred for making yourself in a campaign when humans exist in the game, and talk about immersion. Obviously up to DM discretion, but you shouldn't have to have some whimsical character every game. There's nothing wrong with just saying, I'm me, but I have magic. So I definitely agree with that. I think that a lot of it comes into really what you want out of the game and what your party wants out of the game. It's a strange one, right? Because, like, obviously there's nothing wrong with just saying, I made myself with magic. But if you make a character, throw him in the game, and I was to say, hey, my name's Colton Halfley, and I'm a human Eldritch Knight, then it kind of feels a little bit weird sometimes to some players, simply because what ends up happening is it becomes hard to distinguish yourself from your character for other players in the game. Now, that's not going to be a problem at every table, but for some tables, and it may be. So, yeah. That would be my response to Varmint's hot take. It's not too unreasonable for that to be okay, but I think, again, it just has to do with your table. And I definitely think that the majority of tables think that that's not something you should do, which is why it has this reputation of being not something you should do. Hot take. Saber Radio Production says Ranger is not a bad class. I agree. I think that they have fixed Ranger very much as time has gone on. I think it started as a pretty poor class because of a lack of identity. A lot of its abilities didn't matter in a game where DMs kind of hand-waved travel and whatnot. But I think that nowadays, with all of the revisions and added subclasses, I think Ranger is actually pretty good now, overall. Colin Toohey says, hot take, sorcerers are the worst class in 5e due to the ridiculously low number of spells known for a full caster. I don't know if they're the worst class. I don't know if there is a worse class in 5e, which is a weird thing to say. The reason that I say that is because I think every class has a niche that it fills, and while Sorcerer's niche may be the smallest one, I don't think that makes it the weakest. I think that it just makes it the most restrictive. I think that Sorcerer is very, very, very good at what it does well, and it doesn't do much other than that, where you could take classes such as Bard and say Bard doesn't do anything exceedingly well, but it does everything like third best or second best, which is what makes Bard good. So Bard being an outlier and saying that it can kind of do everything, Paladin hits hard and tanks, Barbarian hits hard and tanks, like, I always see Sorcerer as I've always seen Sorcerer as that magic class that is intended to just hit hard, and I don't think that makes it bad. I just think it gives it a niche. Also, Warlocks are the most difficult class to play well due to their wonky full caster, half caster mechanics, unless you're playing a Hexblade. Again, I think it depends on what you define as playing well. Playing well doesn't necessarily mean, you don't have to play mechanically perfectly in Dungeons and Dragons. And I think that's okay. And so if you're looking at it from purely a statistical sense, it may be the most difficult to play well, but I don't think that it's forces it into this is something that's hard to play. It's just something that you have to be a little unique with. Super Armor says 5e isn't easy. If you don't have a dedicated healer in the party, the game is very challenging at basically every level. I don't disagree with that. However, I think that calling any role-playing game difficult or challenging to play is hard to do. By virtue of the fact that a lot of the game is dependent on dice rolls, which means that something that might have been hard for one party might have been easy for another because they just got lucky and crit. Alongside that, I think that it's a DM's job to help balance a game to the party specialties. So if a game is TPKing you over and over again, and it's because like you don't have a healer, I think that it's more the fault of the DM for not understanding where the party excels, and less the fault of the game design for you not having a healer. Artemis Knows Too Much says, Clerics are not specifically a healer class, and bards are more generally supportive. The overall design of the Cleric class focuses on focusing down a particular niche and becoming one of the game's best options for that. Healing just happens to be one of those. I would agree with this, if only because I think that healing is just kind of the thing that Cleric falls into. Obviously, Clerics don't have to be the healer. And I think bards do have more supportive abilities, but I think there's a difference between being a support and being a healer. Healers can come from any class that has magic. Oh, but nobody came. Is this what you guys were talking about? Sorry, I know I was talking about D&D hot takes just now, but I don't think this is my first nobody came screen. So anyways, yeah, my TLDR for that, clerics don't have to be healers, but they're capable of being healers, and I think that's true for any spellcasting class that has healing magic. Clerics just happen to be the best at it. Eric Stagnick says, dragons aren't actually that interesting. What is this? They're all just kind of the same. I disagree. I think that a lot of dragons are similar, but I think that some dragons are very unique in how they are. White dragons being very bestial in nature is very interesting to me, even though I think it's kind of dumb that they're not very smart. I think like wise hunters rather than like bestial hunters. Overall, though, I think that that dragons have their differences in the sense of, man, they really want to show me that no one's on their way, huh? I think that dragons specialize in having personalities and unique breath weapons, and other than that, are they kind of samey? Yeah, but I think that could be true of any combat with similar things, such as zombies versus certain undeads. You could take mind flayers, like any two mind flayers are the same. And I think that dragons fill a niche that makes it to where you could play one in any scenario that you want. Oh, did I like clear out the entire area? Is that what happened? Also, Jolly Cypher, there's a lot of these. Jolly Cyber 24 says, the best subclass in the game is the Battlemaster Fighter, not by strength, but by design. It provides so much customization to the fighter and is still updated to this day. It's one of the main reasons I love fighters so much. I don't disagree with that. I think Battlemaster Fighter is exceedingly well, I think, let's go with butterscotch. I think Battlemaster Fighters is definitely one of the best classes. I think Warlock also, just Warlock in general, is very well designed. Simply because of Warlock invocations. I believe that Warlock invocations make Warlock very well designed, even if they can be a bit frustrating to play sometimes. So I mean, I agree with that. Battlemaster Fighter, it may not be the strongest, but it is one of the best subclasses in the game. Biggest Blunder says, while Magic Sorcerer is the most complex thing you can play with in a game of D&D, I heavily disagree. I don't think it's complex, I think it's just random. While Magic Sorcerer is pretty fun, I don't feel like it's any harder than any other, like, sorcerer. But yeah. Hot take, Eric Kuhn says, hot take, Action Surge is a wasted ability that fighters never end up using. I don't know what fighters you play with, but every fighter that I've ever had in a game ever uses Action Surge in every case that they can, and it's pretty accurately works. You know what? We're gonna do this for the rest of the hot takes. Is this that screen? Yeah, it looks kind of weird though. Let me see what I can do about this. Oh, that was bad. Okay. Sure, this'll work. Alright, we're gonna transition to this view. For now. And we'll finish out the hot takes and then we'll go back to Undertale. We're gonna have this Undertale sound in the background. Very spicy take. Sometimes rules lawyers are valid. To make other parts of the game shine, you have to take away convenient things, which is also why rangers are seen as a bad class. Sometimes rules lawyers are valid. I definitely think... I think that's true in some tables. I think tables that want that strict rule-following game, it's definitely a valid thing. I think that the game definitely shines when there are rules. The thing is that I don't think that the rules have to be necessarily the rules in the book. For example, a lot of the travel rules that Jacob uses in his games aren't necessarily book determined. They can be, but they don't have to be, right? And so I think that having a rules lawyer that knows when to speak up, like maybe someone's using a spell wrong or something like that, is the right time to do it, rather than looking at what the DM is doing and questioning it if it steps away from the rules. I think that just being aware of when to speak as a rules lawyer is important. Stormo says, spicy take, more D&D content isn't always good. Wizards of the Coast doesn't need to churn out 4 books a year is what I mean. I don't know how I feel about that one. I feel like I don't feel like Wizards of the Coast has to do it, but I think it's really fun to get new content. Like, if I'm being honest, I haven't read any of the books that have come out this year, but it doesn't hurt me that those books are available. It doesn't hurt me that those books are content that people can use in their 5e games, and I think that more content is just more choice for players that want it, and for players that don't, we can keep playing how we want to play. Like, there's nothing wrong with just picking up the player's handbook and playing with the player's handbook and the DM's guide, even though all these other books are out. It's just extra things that we can add, right? Just things that we can add to our game and things that we can play. Mysterious Watts changes the subject a little bit on Warlocks and says, Warlocks are by far the easiest casters for newer players and the most durable arcane casters. You don't have to figure out what level a spell is, and you don't have to manage loads of them, and their D8 hit die with certain invocations makes them surprisingly hard to kill. I don't know that any spellcaster is easy to play, and I don't know what I would determine as the easiest spellcaster to play. I think that every spellcaster is different to play. Because I know that for me, personally, playing a Warlock was the most confusing thing I ever had to do, because I didn't understand, like, how they worked necessarily. But that's also because I knew how the other spellcasters worked, right? So, I would say that I disagree but I disagree with the caveat that I had experience playing D&D before, so maybe that was why I had trouble playing a Warlock. Archon of Komarog says, I think that abilities are cool and all that, but sometimes they don't get to work and that's okay. For example, if a rogue is against a wall and they get fireballed or fire breathed, how can they evade? Things like that. I think that taking away abilities because of things such as being against a wall for a rogue in that example is difficult to do, because like it makes sense. It's hard for a rogue to evade, and maybe doesn't even make sense, but a lot of the stuff that our characters don't make sense in terms of like real life. Like there aren't people out here smiting other people with paladin magic, right? So there has to be an explanation for how the rogue could potentially evade the fireball or the fire breath, even if it's just happening to get underneath the blast or evade the blast in some way. You know, when a fireball is cast and a rogue evades, they don't move squares either. So if they don't have to move squares, then I don't think that a wall being behind them necessarily dictates that they can't evade. Hot take, more character creation options is not a good thing, from Zachary Fitzpatrick. I disagree again. I think that having more options is fantastic, and if you don't want to use those options, that's a-okay. There's no need to use the options if you don't want to use the options, but the options are there if you want them. And I think that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, that's all I have to say on that. Cal the God says, D&D hot take, Artificer is a bit clumsy, with how it gives the players its early game features far too fast. I feel like it should spread some of the features out slightly more, but it would also nerf it, so I don't know if this is the way to go. I've never played an Artificer, so I can't say. All I know is that every person that I know that's played an Artificer says that they feel kind of weak. So I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that, but I also can't say that I would agree with that because I haven't played it myself. Anyways, that's 17 minutes of hot takes. This is just going to go up as a video like this. For those that know, I have opened up a Ko-fi. It's Kofi. It is a website that supports content creators such as myself that are a little bit on the smaller side, where you can buy me a coffee, or in my case, buy me a set of dice or half a set of dice, and give a soft donation, a small donation over towards me, and it would go a long way towards this being something that I could do for a career option in the future. And the more viable that becomes, the easier it is for me to make content, and the more time I'm able to dedicate to this, and pull away from other work that I do. So that's the end of this video. I'm going to get back to this Twitch stream. If you guys want to check out more of me doing this Genocide Undertale run, check out twitch.tv/arcanearcade, and I'm live there periodically, and we also play live D&D with Jacob and others. So that's the end of that video, and I'm going to get back to this stream.